Iain from R.T.O yet again. Third time today. Busy old day, and it is pick and mix. And this week we are mixing it up, which means we've got to look at a producer. Now, today's a producer. He's a South African born. He was a producer and engineer. He collaborated with several artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, including Mr. Hendrix, the Beatles, Bowie, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin. Then he went on to do producing. And that person is Eddie Kramer. And he was born on the 19th of April, 1942. Made some great albums with people. Has worked with an incredible variety of artists as well. So we're going to have a look at go through his catalogue of what he produced. We don't do engineering, this is all the stuff that he was a producer or a co-producer on. And then I'm going to pick my top 5 albums that was produced by Eddie Kramer. So this story starts in 1970. And Buzzy Lindhart and music. Now, William Charles Buzzy Lindhart was an American performer and composer. This album music is pretty good. It's got 2 really good tracks on it. One's called "The Bag On," and in "If the Bag I'm In" and "If You Love Me." Brilliant tracks. Really interesting album. Never listened to it, but I really enjoyed listening to that. So we'll move on to 1971, and and I didn't know this, that he was the producer on Carly Simon's debut album. Brilliant album, and I love That's the Way I've Always Heard It and Another Door. We'll be doing some more work on Carly Simon, so for those fans, yes, we are doing some. Great. We'll stay with 1971 and Jimi Hendrix, The Cry of Love, Freedom and Easy Rider are just called tracks. So we'll move on to 1972. And he's working with a band called NRBQ. Now, they're an American rock band that were founded by Terry Adams and Steve Ferguson. And they've been around since 1965. Now, this album is called Scraps. Really, really like this band. It'll go on the list at some stage. And it's got some great tracks on here. And I love the title of this one. Who put the garlic? Who put the garlic in the glue? Great title and a great track, and the title track Scraps is pretty good. We'll move on to 1973 now, and he's back with NRBQ on their album Workshop. Another great title, RC Cola and the Moon Pie, good track, and Get That Gasoline Blues, which is terrific. Really, really good track on that album. So 1973. He works on the can't say it, so the self-titled album Job Wraith, which is actually Bruce Wayne Campbell, American singer, and was an actor as well. He was the first openly gay rock musician, and he was the first internationally famous musician to die of AIDS. Something I wouldn't want to be to say, but it's one of them things. It's not a bad album. Be Still and Movie Queen are the highlights of that. Staying in the year 1973. Produces an album for Stories. Now, they're a rock and pop music band based in New York. We had Michael Brown, Ian Lloyd, Steve Love and Brian Madley, and the album About Us. It's okay, but there's nothing on there that really rocked my boat. 1974 is back with Joe Braith on the Creatures of the Street album. Street Corner Love's okay and Sister Sue. That's all right. 1974. He's working with Spooky Tooth on The Mirror. Good album. Favourite tracks on there: Two-Time Love and Hell or High Water. Excellent. So we'll move on to 1976. And he's working with Kiss, no less, on the Rock and Roll Over. Tracks that come to mind on that, of course, are Calling Dr. Love and Baby Driver. Excellent tracks. 1976, again, he's working with Mott. Now, of course, Mott is Mott the Hoople without Ian Hunter on the Shouting and Pointing album. It's okay. I'm not going to go too much into this because I will be doing them very soon. Shouting and Pointing is good, and Storm. 1977, now he works with a great band called Angel on their On Earth As It Is in Heaven. She's a Mover is a great track. Always like that one. And On the Rocks. Brilliant track. Staying in the year of 77, he's working on the Brownsville Station's self-titled track. Known for Smoking on the Boys' Room, but there are two tracks on here that are brilliant. Sleazy Louise and the Martian Boogie, which is just terrific, in the vein of Smoking in the Boys' Room. He's back working with Kiss on Love Gun. And then we have tracks like Shock Me and Hooligan on there that are pretty good. We'll move on to 1978 now, and he's working on when Kiss did their solo albums. And this is the Ace Frehley one. It's okay. Speeding Back to My Baby I like, and What's on Your Mind. The outstanding tracks on there. And then he goes and works with Foghat, who I love. On their Stone Blue album, the title track is just fantastic, and High on Love is another killer track off that album. Now he takes a little break. He doesn't appear then until 1981. When he works with the Michael Stanley Band. They're a sort of brand of Heartland rock. North Coast, not. I just didn't like it. It's a, no disrespect, but it's a wishy-washy sort of rock, and I don't like limp-wristed wishy-washy rock. So there we go. Nothing on there that really tickled my fancy. 1982, he works with the great Peter Frampton on The Art of Control. I Read the News and Eye for an Eye, a fantastic track. 1983, he works with Fastway, which is Eddie Clark and Pete Wayne. Now, I saw this band, and they're terrific, and they worked on that fantastic debut album, Fastway. Heft is brilliant, and Say What You Will. I just love them two tracks. 1983 again, he's back with NRBQ for Tap Dancing Bats. Two great tracks on there. You've Got It and Rats in My Room is brilliant. 1984, he goes and works with the three-piece band from Canada, Triumph, on their Thunder 7. Spellbound is brilliant, and Stranger in a Strange Land, nothing to do with the Iron Maiden track, but it's a killer track. 1985, Alcatraz and Disturbing the Peace. Mercy and Painted Lover, brilliant tracks. Also works with a band called Icon. They're an American rock band that formed in 79, stayed around until 1990 and reformed in 2008. And they're The Night of the Crime, not a bad album. Danger Calling and Raise the Hammer, Product World sort of stuff. Then they go and work with Raven. The Pack is Back. Not a particular favourite of mine, but I do like Little Young Blood and Rock Dogs. Pretty good. Staying in the year of 86, works with a band called TT Quick, heavy metal band from New Jersey. It featured Mark Tornillo, who of course went on to front Except. And the album Metal of Honor and Hell to Power Great. They're just good old-fashioned heavy metal tracks. Absolutely pretty good. 1987, goes and works with another good band, Pretty Maids, on the Future World album. Very good album. We Came to Rock and Loud and Proud are good. Then he goes and works with Anthrax on their sort of the album that really brought them up to well, hello, and it's the Among the Living, Caught in a Mosh, and the brilliant I Am the Law. In 1987, he's going to work with Ace Frehley on the Frehley Comment album. I'm not a big fan of this, but I like Rock Soldiers. And We Got Your Rock. What a title. Also in 1987, he works with an Australian rock band, and I saw these supporting Kiss on the Crazy Nights tour, and it's Kings of the Sun, Kings of the Sun. What an album. It's just a rock and roll boogie. We've mentioned them before on the channel. Black Leather and Serpentine are just fabulous tracks. Then he goes and works with Loudness, or a Japanese rock band, on their Hurricane Eyes album. In My Dreams and Rock This Way are okay. There's lots of screeching, but the guitar work is on it. Then he's back working with Fastway. Now, this is the tour I saw them on. I can't remember who they supported, but they were supporting someone I saw in 1987. And the Trick or Treat album, another fabulous album. After Midnight and Tear Down the Walls are great tracks. We'll move on to 1989. Back with Ace Frehley on Trouble Walking. Mediocre album, lots of hair methy type sounds. Good producing though from Eddie. Shot Full of Rock and Too Die Too Young are pretty good. So we move on to the new decade, the 90s, and he's working with the brilliant Robin Trower on the In the Line of Fire album. We mentioned it the other week. It's not a bad album. Natural Fact is one of my favourites, and Everybody's Watching You again, excellent. We'll move on to 1991, and he works with a band called The Scream. They're a rock band formed in 1989, and this John Coraby, who went on to sing with Motley Crue when Vince Neil left, and the drummer is Scott Travis of Judas Priest. This is a pretty good album. It's got Outlaw and Give It Up, are pretty cool tracks. Then we have 1993, the Power Trio from Hell. Interesting. Then their album American Man, they're just a rock trio. Fire of Life and 19 are pretty good. Then in 1994, he works with the legendary blues guitarist, singer Buddy Guy, Slipping In. Absolutely brilliant album in his latter years of his life. I Smell Trouble and Love Her With Feeling are brilliant tracks. It's a great album all round. 1995 now, and working with John McLaughlin. I think we've mentioned him before. English guitarist, band leader, and his album Promise. It's a bit of jazz rock fusion. It's okay, not the best album. Then he goes and works in 1996 with the legendary Carl Perkins on the Go Cat Go album, which is basically Carl with guests singing with him. One of the tracks I love on here is one he did with Tom Petty, and it's called One More Shot. And another great track on this, All Mama's Children, he did with Mr. John Fogerty. Excellent tracks. 1998, he's working with Brian May on the Another World album. I love The Governor, which is about Jeff Beck and Cyborg. Pretty cool tracks. And there's a little bit of a quiet period. And then in 2007, there's a tribute album, a all-girl band called Les Zeppelin. And they produced their album Les Zeppelin. Basically, it's tracks. Now, there's not much of that album about, but I did find a clip of them doing a whole lot of love. They're all right. 2011, working with a blues band from Texas called the Michael Williams Band and the Fire Red album. Excellent track on this. It's a really good blues album. No More Suffering is good, and Fire Red is brilliant. 2012, works with a Spanish heavy metal band called Baron Roger. Roxo, something like that. and the album Tommy Baron. Interesting. Opportunia Undertura are very good. This was done in Spanish. Really different, but the guitar work's on it. 2014, this is the last album he done. And it's a band called American Friction and an album called Dumb Luck. They're an indie rock band and this was their debut. There Goes My Girl and Dumb Luck are pretty cool tracks. So that's his album. So then I had to sit down and find out what are my top 5. This was quite difficult actually, but this is the way I go. So it came in at number 5 is Another World, which is Brian May's second solo album released in 1998. We had Brian May, Cozy Powell on it, Steve Ferroni on drums as well, Spike Egney on the keyboards, Shelley Preston on vocals, Kathy Porter, Jeff Beck does the guitar work on The Governor, Ian Hunter is a guest raconteur all the way to Memphis. You've got this track called Space. It's a weird opening to the track. Business, some great driving riffs on that. China Bell, a great little rocker with that distinctive Brian May sound on it. Why Don't We Try Again? Slow song, not a particular favourite on me. On My Way Up, catchy tune, love the backing vocals on that. Cyborg, it's just a great rocker. Great drumming from Mr. Powell. The Governor, or you got 2 great guitarists on here. Beck and May, brilliant. Wilderness, pretty strong track. Slow Down, cover of the Larry Williams song. On a Rainy Day, On a Rainy Wish, another cover of Jimi Hendrix. All the way from Memphis, the Ian Hunter song when Ian's on it. Another World, pretty good. Then we get FBI. Yes, FBI. And then Hot Patootie from Rocky Horror. It's a solid album. I don't mind that. Okay, my number 4 one was from Kiss, from 1976, their 5th album, Rock and Roll All Over, with the usual suspects, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss and Ace Frehley. This has got I Want You on it as well. Good track. Take Me, another stomp rock. Love that one. Calling Dr. Love as well, of course. Excellent track. Ladies Room, typical Gene song, isn't it? Baby Driver, one of my favourites. Love 'Em and Leave 'Em. Great guitar solo from Ace on that. Mr. Speed, good track. See You in Your Dreams, it's all right. Hard Luck Woman, okay. Making Love, another really solid track. Another solid album. Of course, at number 3, we had to have Robin Trower. The lineup of this at the time was Davey Patterson with Robin Trower and Bobby Mayo on keyboards, John Regan on bass and Tony Beard on drums. Seal Love's on here. We've talked about this. Under the Gun, Turn Up the Volume. Natural Fact, of course, is my favourite track. If you really want to find love, brilliant. Everybody's watching you now. Another favourite of mine. Isn't It Time? I would still be here for you. All That I Want. Let's Turn this Fight into a Brawl. Climb Above the Rooftops. Not a bad album. It's got a bit of that Elwitis feel, but I still think it's pretty good. My number 2 album is Stone Blue, the 7th album from Foghat, with the brilliant Dave Piverette, Rod Price, Craig McGregor and Roger Earl. Stone Blue, it's just a brilliant track. Their version of Sweet Home Chicago is one of the best versions you'll ever hear. Easy Money, that riff at the beginning is just fabulous. Midnight Madness, one of the mellower tracks, it's really good. It Hurts Me Too, a great Elmore James song done brilliantly by this band. High on Love, my favourite guitar. It's got some great guitar work on it. Chevrolet, a great version of the Memphis Mini song. Stay With Me, starting to change direction here. It's a bit acoustic. It's a great album. Just love it. But my number 1 album, and I brought this after seeing them on stage. It's King of the Sun's debut from 1988. The band is on bass, Anthony Ragg, on drums and vocals, Clifford Hode, on guitar, Glenn Morris and Jeffrey Hode on vocals and guitar, It opens up with the brilliant Serpentine, the bluesy sort of guitar. It's brilliant. First track I ever heard by this band, and I was hooked. They opened up the show with that. And Get On Up, great riffs, just a great vocal from Jeffrey. I love it. The brilliant Black Leather. I've got the 12-inch single of this. Absolutely brilliant. The video is quite risque, but it's brilliant. Then we get Tomboy, which is another absolute killer track. Hot to Trot's a real boogie track. Vicious Delicious, the drumming on this is brilliant. Jealous is just great riffs, great vocals, brilliant track. Bottom of My Heart, it's okay. It's probably the weakest track on this one. Cry for Love, the guitar work between Glenn and Jeffrey is fantastic. It's a good rocker. Medicine Man, it's got a very Native American Indian start, great guitar solo. Bad Love is just a great boogie track, brilliant stuff. Wildcat, another great little rocker to end the album, dynamic, lots of grooves. This is an absolute belter of an album. I mean, seeing all these tracks live were great, but the album is still one of my favourite albums of all time from Australia, up with some of the great AC/DC albums. So there we go. There's a little bit of history about Mr. Eddie Kramer, and he did do a great deal of work. Okay, finally we've done all three today. I'll be back tonight around about 8 o'clock for a bit of live stream, but if not, tomorrow, which is the last day before I take a week off, and we've got a live album ranking for a little bit of power metal from Camelot, a great band from America, power rock and all that good stuff. And we've got a brand new album, and this album is terrific. It's the new album from John Anderson and the Geek Band, and it is called True. It is fantastic. So join me for that. Bye for now.